Hey guys, welcome back. Tisha here, back for another Love and Marriage DC review. Let me begin by saying that Yusha is rational and I respect him for that. I appreciate the fact that despite these grown people not being able to formulate opinions of their own, that he was able to do so and did not change his mind despite what they were trying to tell them. I noticed that Ashley can disrespect Clifton all she wants to by calling him a B and saying he's a mean girl. But the moment where she found out in season 1 that Winter referred to her husband as fun size, she was offended with it. So why, Ashley, is it okay for you to continuously disrespect Joy's husband by calling him names, but you expect for people to have a different standard for you and your husband? And we don't see this as problematic. We pick up the episode with Joy walking out after Terry has called her out. Black is explaining himself and Winter is sticking up for Black. Sherelle is crying. Is it that deep that Sherelle needs to cry? Does it require this much of a discussion? I think not, but apparently these people think that we do. Winter goes as far to say that it's obvious that Black was hurt by what was said by Raina, and as a result, his story wasn't told, and that Joy had been going around telling everybody her side, but Black had not. Black didn't need to, because his wife did, number one. Number two, Joy didn't go around telling everybody. Joy told Raina, and then Raina made it a thing by telling other people, and then Sherelle made a big to-do with it at Quick Stuff, and it turned into a thing. So let's not act like this didn't have a trickle-down effect, but either way, I don't understand why we're talking about something that happened so many years ago. While this is going on, you have Joy outside who is sticking to what she said about Black and admits that that was how he used to be, and she does not know how he is now. If he's great, then great. If that's the case, why do we need to keep talking about this? Why do people feel the need to clear their name? I don't even know who these people are, and granted, I'm not from DC, but Sherelle and Black, y'all have a podcast that you say is so successful. So why are you so worried about this? Because now you're going to have people looking into this who didn't even know who you people were. Bottom line is, Joy doesn't feel like they were friends, and she doesn't feel like Black knows her. They decide that they need to do what's best for them, which is leave and enjoy the candles and Valentine's Day festivities that Joy has planned for herself and Clifton. So they say goodbye, they walk out, and Joy mumbles some expletives under her breath as she gets to the door. Childish, yes, but is she frustrated? Yes. Would I have done that? No. As soon as I felt uncomfortable, I would have been out of there. But then again, I would have never went on a trip with people that I don't like in the first place. But this is what they're here to do. It is a job. They're being paid. This is the cash trip. It's the next morning, and some of them are about to prepare breakfast. Raina and Jamie come down saying that they're dressed up to go out because they didn't smell breakfast, but really they had already planned to go out with the Petties. I wasn't surprised by that. As soon as I saw how they were dressed, I knew that. Ashley says they must be going to see the ops. Jamie and Raina says, we're going to check on the Petties. So they've now officially made this a us against them thing. The subject of Terry comes up. Raina says that, okay, let me back up here. I'm trying to speed through this because I was so irritated with it. But Raina and Jamie get to the restaurant, then the Petties arrive. They sit down, do a little bit of small talk. The subject of Terry comes up. Raina tells them that she called Terry and told Terry that she would love for her to come out and do some type of session with the group because they need it. She says she didn't go into details about what was going on with the Duncans and the Silvas. All she did was say that our group needs it. So I want you to know that that wasn't my intention. And she says, did you all feel ambushed? And Clifton says, yeah, we felt ambushed. I can see why they would, because in that moment, and I don't know if they edited stuff out, left stuff out, but Joy was the main one being called out. She says, it got real, and Joy was thrown into a conversation before she was ready, and that's tough on anybody. I can't remember if it was her or if it was Clifton, but somebody said that. My notes are jacked up, y'all. Let me tell y'all that now. This is more of a rant than anything because I was so frustrated that I stopped taking notes. All I know is none of these people need to be on a trip together again. It's clear that the energy in the room shifted as soon as Joy and Clifton arrived. Raina says, you should have told her to stop once you felt uncomfortable. But Joy said she didn't want to stop because she wanted to see where Terry was going to go with it. Whatever that lady said, whether Joy wants to sit here now and say that it was so far left, there was some truth to it. And even if it was truthful, Joy probably would have said it wasn't, because Joy at that point was so ready to go against the grain because her defenses were up. And as she said, she didn't feel comfortable in that group setting, that she would have found any reason to not agree with what was being said by Terry. She was blindsided. She didn't like it. She didn't trust it. And with her coming at Joy and keep asking Joy and prodding Joy, Joy obviously felt like this was a setup. They go back and forth about the whole situation, and I'm not going to go into details about it because it's redundant. We then get to Winter, who points out that she never heard Black speak like that, and that Joy was wrong because Joy kept talking over him. Yusef then says, was it Yusef? Yusha says, she wasn't talking trash. They did not like that. He added to that, by the way. Winter doesn't like that he's defending that at all. Whereas I feel like Yusha is a grown man who's speaking facts. And I don't understand what's wrong with these women. Joy's saying that Black is a cheater and that he had bad business practices is not the end of the world. I'm starting to feel like there is some truth to it, because why are we making this such a big deal if this was so long ago? And if Joy and Sherelle had already spoken about this one-on-one, why are we continuing to talk about it? Joy says he's saying whatever to protect his image, but the streets talk, and at some point these DC streets will tell the truth. She also feels that it's funny that nobody in that group were trying to speak to her, but when Terry arrived, then they had so much to say. I get that, because they weren't trying to speak to her. They were being rude to her. We know that even as far as her walking in and saying hello, it was crickets. Like, the only people who seemed to be real excited was Raina and Jamie, and Winter and Yusha were cordial. So I don't get it. Joy then starts crying and says this place is becoming unsafe for her mentally, and that she didn't come to this group just to have to protect who and what she is and has. I get it. I don't know if it was the edit or what, but it's some part of her crying kind of made me question if it was coming from a real place of pain or if it was out of frustration or what, because one minute she was crying and the next she wasn't. I think production dropped the ball there. Jamie and Raina still try to get them together, talk to Joy. Jamie ends up convincing Joy on what he's saying to come back and to have a talk at some point. He says, you know, there needs to be some type of discussion. Raina says, why don't you all do something one-on-one? Would you agree to come back and do something one-on-one outside with none of us, you know, there, just you and Ashley? And she does end up agreeing. I don't think she should have. I personally wouldn't have, because Ashley wants people to crawl back to her, number one. Number two, she already tried to do that when she did the whole basketball thing with her, and we saw how that went. That went completely left. Ashley isn't someone who can be talked to at this point, in my opinion. She's the only one who's right, and that's it. Yusha says, I'm not defending what Joy did last night. I'm saying that I understand what's going on and that understanding what's happening now will lead to forgiveness for her later. If you don't do that, you won't be able to forgive her. And they go back and forth about it. He said, it's not about you, talking to his friend Black. It's about whatever the pain is that Joy is feeling, that she's dealing with from her past, that is now being connected in this moment. I appreciate what Yusha was saying, but because of how immature this group is, they couldn't understand it. Quick then steps in and basically tells Yusha that he shouldn't be saying anything right now, because if he's paying attention to how Winter's responding, he should just be agreeing with Winter. Don't agree with me if you're my man and I'm doing wrong. Call me out on my crap. Now, maybe you don't want to do it in front of everybody, but you need to call me out on my crap. I do not like how Winter picks and chooses when she wants to be a Christian. You can't sit here and talk about how premarital sex is wrong and say all these other things, yet Winter, you're showing the opposite here. You lead with the fact that you're a Christian woman, and here Winter can't understand that her man is basically saying that at some point there needs to be forgiveness on all ends in order to move forward. But you don't want to hear any of that. Instead, Winter wants to get upset with him because he's not on Team Silva and Team Duncan, because he has his own mind, despite that being his friend, and he's choosing to not pick sides and to just say what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. Later on, the relaxation crew has arrived to do manis, pedis, and facials. As this happens, Raina and Jamie arrive, and Raina leaves Joy in the car because Raina is supposed to go upstairs and make sure that Ashley is willing to come down and have a conversation one-on-one with Joy. But Raina, in my opinion, either was distracted, she came up with her excuse later on, but I don't understand how you end up getting your nails done or started on your nails while I'm sitting there waiting for you in the car. But Raina goes and she talks to Ashley, and she asks Ashley if she'd be willing to have a one-on-one conversation. She gets a little teary-eyed. She says, on your own with Joy. I don't want us to bring this back to DC. Of course, while she's saying this, Ashley is being the immature woman that she is, and she's rolling her eyes and doing all this extra stuff. And she admits to enjoying Joy at one point, claims that she doesn't miss her, says that it's like what Joy says, if someone doesn't like your spouse, then y'all can't rock with each other. And she genuinely doesn't like Clifton now. So that's where it stands. I wish they would have let it go there. Despite knowing at that point that Joy is still waiting in the car, Ashley says to her, I gotta talk to my husband about it first. I don't see why she did that, but we'll get down to it later. She still hasn't made it down to talk too quick because she's still talking to Raina about whether or not Jamie and Raina are taking sides. Raina says, look, you think that I'm just coming down on you, but you don't know the talks that I have when I'm talking one-on-one with her. She said this before. This is already a discussion that they've had before. She says, the same way I get on you, I get on Joy. As I said before, Raina didn't need to worry about this situation. I think at times Raina made it worse, even though she meant well, I guess. They're getting facials, the men are. And Black decides to take this time to ask Jamie, while he's getting his facial, while he's supposed to be relaxing, what he thinks about yesterday. Why is this a thing where people are being forced to have input on something that doesn't concern them? I've never seen so many adults that require reinforcement. Jamie stands his ground, says he didn't have anything to do with it, that at this point, he's team peace. Black says he can respect that. He's not taking sides. He then lets Quick know that Clifton doesn't feel like he disrespected Ashley and that Ashley can hold her own. We got so much to say about everything else. Quick does. If he really and truly felt like his wife was disrespected, I don't understand why he hasn't fully addressed it with Clifton. We have all these other things, these supposed conversations and all those other things, but it just seems like have a discussion. Say, look, my wife felt offended when you leaned over her, and then go from there. But this is just it's too much. It's annoying. Jamie says, I have a relationship with Ashley, and I told him this. I've gotten into it with Ashley, but all is well because I already knew her and he didn't, and that's why you don't see it as okay. I don't think men and women should be arguing with one another's spouse, especially if it gets to that point where it did. But who am I? This is not my situation. I just know I wouldn't be sitting there arguing back and forth with no man, because I understand that there are some men who would not have been calm in that situation, who might have matched the same energy. Now, Clifton was mocking her and leaned over her at one point, and some people may not feel like that is aggressive or disrespectful. She did, whatever. Quick says, where am I? If she took it that way, if she took it like she was being disrespected, then he doesn't need to ask any questions about the situation because his wife felt disrespected and that's how she took it. Whatever. I can see why he would say that, but just ask them if you can see the tape. Joy at this point has been in the car for over 11 minutes, and Ashley is just now going to find Quick. I would have left before all that. It's rude, and I don't like Joy, but nothing that Joy has done at this point to me makes it fair for her to be sitting there waiting on Ashley like she's the president of the U.S. or something. It's just, it's annoying. Raina doesn't want to go back to the car because she doesn't want to face Joy until she knows what the answer is going to be. So her rude tail decides that she's going to go and start to get her nails done because she was looking forward to this moment. I would have been mad at Raina for that, but it's whatever. Ashley talks to Quick about Joy waiting in the car to speak to her. He says, what do you want to do? Which means he was going to do whatever Ashley wanted to do in the first place. So Ashley didn't even have to come down and talk to him. She could have made the decision 11 minutes ago when she was up there and she was first asked. She says she doesn't feel like getting into it because at this point she's had a good time. She's enjoyed herself and she wants to leave on a good note. And she doesn't feel like they need to talk about it right now, even though at some point they do. Quick says, you know, whatever you decide, I support it. It's been 22 minutes at this point, and Joy is still waiting. I'm now officially siding with Joy because there's no way I'm sitting alone for that long in the car unless I want to try and make the environment better. I'm not wasting my time for the sake of wasting my time or for this show because I've already showed up to do the scene. She hasn't come. Peace. Ashley lets her know that the answer is no. She tells Raina the answer is no. So after 29 minutes, Raina finally tells her that the answer is no. Joy says, what did I tell you? 3 strikes and that's it. So Raina and Jamie did all this stuff just to have no resolution. Jamie says he feels like all of this needs to start with the women, and once they can move forward, then the men will be able to too. He can't stress himself. You then see Ashley saying overall the trip was great. So does Sherelle and Black. I don't understand if we're watching the same show because that's not what I see. You then have Yusha saying he had a good time. Winter feels like the trip was okay, but it was bad for Yusha. She's upset over him siding against her concerning Joy. At this point, I feel like Yusha deserves better. He should be able to speak his mind with them, taking in what he's saying without being defensive. He's not taking sides. He's trying to get you all to look at the full perspective. He was saying, consider the entire picture, but they do not have the mentality that it requires to think about someone other than themselves, because everyone in this group, with the exception of a few, think the same exact way. And if you don't think like them, then you're against them. So in my opinion, Winter is a clown too. Yusha says he doesn't have reservations anymore since this trip. Yusha, I need you to go back and watch this and see all the things that she said in confessional, if you've even made it to this point, because I don't think you have. Winter feels like she does now have reservations. And I have reservations about Winter. She says she does not like him not defending his friend of 10 years. She feels like it says he's a man of action, and yet he didn't even apologize, but he has nothing to apologize for. At no point did he tell Black he was wrong. All he did was tell Black to consider how Joy felt having all these different people come down on her. That's reasonable. Jamie meets up, because they're back at this point. Everybody's back in their homes. Jamie meets up with his homicide detective friend, Jay, to talk about the stress of the job he no longer works. Part of me feels like I don't want to hear this whole background story about this, because we didn't know for so long that this wasn't his profession, that this was his profession. But at the same point, I'm glad that they did it, because it lets you, think about some other things, like the importance of mental health. Jamie meets up with the detective friend Jay. They shake hands. Jamie almost sits on the floor because the seats fall, but he didn't realize it, but his friend saved him. He talks about surviving the career and how hard it is in this city. And when you work it for as long as they have, that you still have stories. He admits to being very angry and having a temper, and he's using his job as an excuse for them. I put go back to counseling. He says when he gets mad, he can't stop it. He made a career of this for 20 years. So this is over 20 years of built up anger and frustration. And for him, he feels like he's so passionate about stuff that happens with his son and all these other things. And that is one of the reasons why, he fights so hard, because of the stuff that has come from the streets. I get it, but to me, it's not an excuse. And some of this felt like Jamie was trying to excuse his behavior. I just got to call it like I see it, because he's been this way for years. Get help. Stop taking it out on your loved ones. Sounds to me like Jamie has some level of PTSD. They have another word for it now, but he has some type of traumatic situation going on, that he's having nightmares and things of that nature, because he talks about having a nightmare where he had a gun and he went to aim and it didn't have any bullets in it. So things of that nature. His friend recommends to him to talk to a therapist. He said that he did work with somebody before he left the force. So he's going to do like a post-retirement session with that lady that he used, and because he liked her. I want to know why he stopped seeing the Black gentleman that we saw him with, which I think I saw him in the clip for next week, because he was calling him out on some things, and we didn't see any follow-ups from that conversation. Bottom line is, these people all need to stop attacking each other, accept one another for who they are, work together in this workspace, and move accordingly. You all, please tell me your thoughts down below. Like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time.